Liaka!
Hi and welcome to the Betway Beat, brought to you by SoccerBeat, and it's your host as usual, Peter du Toit. Good to see you guys, and I've got with me today the coach who's leading his team into the cup final this weekend, Clinton Larsen. Clinton, how's it, man?
Hey, Peter, it's been a while. I'm great, thank you.
You look great. You don't look like a guy who's coaching in the PSL. You look like a guy who's chilling in Saint-Tropez.
Listen, I'm trying to take care of my health, eh? You know what they say, have rest, exercise, eat healthy, and you can take care of yourself.
But don't coach a team in Limpopo. I think that would be one of the... Listen, talking about that, I think you must be the longest serving Limpopo coach, 2 years in Limpopo.
That's funny, Peter, because I actually asked the journalists, because they know better than I do, if there's any other coach that has lasted more than 2 years. Because December will be 2 years for me, my 2-year anniversary in Limpopo with Magesi. So, yeah, it's been a good 2 years, you know, coming midway through the first season, stabilizing the club, and in the second season winning promotion. I'm into my third season now, you know, so, yeah, how time flies, they say.
Yeah, I'll talk about the actual league and your time there a little later, but obviously we've got the big game, the cup final on the weekend, the Carling knockout. And that, I mean, you've created a minor miracle there. Let's be real, and this has not been knocking your team, but you're a brand new side, really. You're the new boys in the PSL. You basically haven't wiped your feet at the door coming in, and you're in a cup final. I mean, first of all, the fans and the chairman and the board must be really blown away by this achievement. How does everybody feel about it?
Yeah, no, listen, everybody is very happy about the start we've made. You know, it's the club's first time playing at this level, and it hasn't been an easy ride. You know, we've had to work very hard behind the scenes to try and put a competitive team together. Our current team, Peter, we've only got 3 new players. So we're starting with 8 of the NFD team, and we've only got 3 new players if you look at, you know, our lineup in the last 6 or 7 games. So, yeah, I think the boys have done very well with the limited experience we've got at this level. You know, 6 of my starting 11 in my previous game against Richards Bay have only played 6 games in the Premier League. So that is how inexperienced we are as a group. You know, we're very inexperienced, and that's why sometimes things like game management can become a challenge. You know, the players with the experience will improve with time. But yeah, everybody's happy with the start we've made.
I think they should be more than happy. They should be ecstatic. I mean, and I'm not blowing smoke up you, but if the league was stopped right now and they picked coach of the season, you'd have to be there as coach of the season. A, because of getting in the final, and B, where you're on the league table. But I'll come back to that. Let's just look at. I mean, you're playing Mamelodi Sundowns, and it's a one-off game, as everybody says, and yes, everybody says the cup's different. But if you look at the squad, the 2 squads, if you look at the cost of the teams, if you look at the experience of the teams, this should be a no-brainer. This should be the better. The bookies wouldn't take odds. You should be guaranteed beaten. But you've obviously got a plan. How do you motivate the guys for this particular game that they actually believe? Because there's not even Chiefs. I mean, the Pirates result will come to it. How do you get this in the guys' minds that they can actually win this?
Stranger things have happened in football, Peter. You're experienced enough to know that. You know, like 2012 when I was with Bloemfontein Celtic, nobody gave us a chance to go to that final and win it, you know. So a few weeks ago, Polokwane City beat the great Mamelodi Sundowns, you know, in the league. So this David versus Goliath story, it's always prevalent in our football. And for me, leading this team in this situation, there's one thing we've got to get right on the day, Peter. Firstly, we've got to make sure we make life very uncomfortable for this star-studded team. You know, we've got to be in their faces. We've got to make sure we don't make mistakes that lead to chances for them. We've got to make sure we use our speed to also pose a problem to them. You know, things we've done in the past against such teams. And I mean, we can take confidence knowing that we played Pirates and scored 3 goals before halftime. We played Kaizer Chiefs and scored 2 goals before halftime. we can take confidence and say we've played the big guns and we've really caused them problems as well. It hasn't just been, a one-way street. So these are the things we're talking to the players about. But in terms of motivating them, Peter, the message I've tried to get across to them is these are rare opportunities to play in a cup final. This is my 21st year of coaching, and it's only my second final. There's many a coach who have not been to a final. My assistant coach, I made an example to our players. My assistant coach, Papi Zotwani, one of the greatest midfielders to have played the game, has never played in a cup final. He played for Sundowns, he played for Arrows, he played for big teams. So that just goes to show how difficult it is to get to a final and win it. So this occasion, we really have got to enjoy it as the underdogs, enjoy the experience, embrace the challenge, go into the game, respecting but not fearing Sundowns, and, just give our best. We've worked very hard to get to where we are. 3 away games in succession, winning by the odd goal, defending resolutely, and we're going to need more of the same.
Correct. So you've just you've given, I think, 50% of the recipe, the Clinton Larsen recipe to beat Mamelodi Sundowns. By the way, for those of you out there, maybe for your own players, is that you've already beaten Mamelodi Sundowns once in the equivalent of this particular cup final. So you knew the recipe many years ago. You're a more experienced coach right now, so that recipe should have grown. So you've given half the recipe. The second half of the recipe is actually the tactics, because I agree with you 100%. Getting in their faces, making life uncomfortable for them is what you're in control of. And so you can definitely control that. The second part you can control to a certain extent is your tactics in stopping them and finding the spaces in which to hurt them. Have you seen chinks in their armor?
I think when you look at games played, you looked at the SuperSport game. SuperSport lost 4-0. But SuperSport created chances. They had 35% possession, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Golden Arrows lost 5-0 in the first encounter last 16. And Arrows had a few chances, created a few chances. Marumo Gallant's exactly the same thing. So I might not be brash enough to say chinks in the armor, but the fact that every team that have played them have had chances to score gives us a little bit of hope and confidence going into this game. Much is said about how to approach Sundowns. Do you press high? Teams have tried it. Sundowns play out of the high press and create problems. Teams have played with a mid block. Sundowns have penetrated them. Teams have sat with a low block and have got 4 or 5 past them. So they're that good a team. They are that good a team that you really, really have got to just make sure on the day, Peter, you outwork them with the amount of running you do. You are never going to compete with them in terms of possession. In terms of the gulf in quality, you're never going to compete. So the one thing we've got to do is to outwork them in terms of the effort we put in on that day. And if we do that, tactics aside, you've got a chance to win the game.
Correct, 100%. If you look at your game against Pirates, I mean, that should be, even though Pirates and Sundowns play a different game, obviously, but there are similarities in the quality of players, ball possession. Sundowns, obviously, Pirates, a lot more direct, and so on. But you went 3-0 up, and they're not bad at the back. Although I was very impressed with something about your team in that day, Clinton. I don't know if this was a tactic or if this was just inspired by the players themselves reading the game. But when the ball was wide left, and obviously South African players are ball watchers in general, your midfielders went past their midfielders, didn't get picked up. And you had, at once or twice, I found you had equal or more players in the box compared to Pirates. Yeah. Is this a tactic? Is this part of the game plan, the getting players in the box? Because if they don't run, because midfield, I don't have to tell you, no player, a creative player, doesn't like running back. And Chiefs, and I was one of them. I hated it. And Chiefs and Pirates and Sundowns are filled with creative players, including midfielders. But they do play with one deeper. Was that part of the tactic against Pirates?
1,000%, Peter. Now, just remember that we're a team that's going to have less possession in every game we go into. We just don't have the personnel to be a possession-based team at the moment. So what would that mean? That would mean that the opponent will be playing much of the game in our half. What does that give us, Peter? It gives us space.
So Sundowns won the first game 5-0. They won the second game 4-0. They won the third game 2-0. Maybe they go down to no goals this time. It's a 0-0, and you can win it in extra time. But that's just an observation. When you look at their front line, I mean, it is frightening. Right? It's an international level front line. Even in they could play in Europe. All three of these guys. In fact, one did. Ribeiro, Shilalila, and Reyners. You're going to have to, it's not just about defending here. It's about being very, very, very clever. And you could end up defending too deep. And then you're on the ropes continuously. How do you avoid that?
Yeah, I think with the Sundowns teams, and credit to Mamelodi Sundowns for the subtle changes he's brought to the way they play. Previously they were very predictable in terms of the possession. But this new Sundowns team can hurt you with long balls. I've never seen a Sundowns team play so many balls in behind the opponent's defense. Why? They've got the likes of Reyners, Matthews, Modiba, Morena, Shalulile, these type of players who are willing to also attack space, unlike previously where everything was to feet. So they've come with a different dimension now, and they are a more well-rounded team, in my opinion, because they can still keep the possession, but they can also play the moment. And what I mean by playing the moment, if a Route 1 ball is on, they will play it, unlike before. So this makes them more dangerous. So I think what we've got to guard against is to make sure these technically gifted players don't have that space in those pockets between the lines. The Allendes, the Riveros, these creative players. Zwane is injured, but these type of players, we've got to make sure that we neutralize that kind of space between the lines where they want to operate. And secondly, we've also got to make sure that we don't play too high, because with the speed they've got in their team, they will really hurt you, whether it's through their fullbacks, Modiba and Madao going, or whether it's with Shalulile, Matthews, or Reyners going. They can hurt you both ways. So it's very difficult to say there's one way to stop them. There isn't. If you compact in the center, they will go wide. And if you're marking them wide, their creative players get too much space centrally. So you're caught between a rock and a hard place with this Sundowns team. And you've just got to try and manage both. And just be a little bit proactive in reading situations a little better to try and neutralize those threats.
Correct. Clinton, you hit the nail on the head. They are people may not realize this, but they are a better side than they've been and it sounds crazy, than they've been in the last 5, 7, 8 years. Because they play, and this thing about long ball, direct, that's nonsense. A good pass is a good pass. A good pass is what creates problems either immediately or will allow the player who receives the ball and the movement to create further problems. And if you knock it 30 yards or 5 yards or 15 yards, it's irrelevant. In fact, the 30-yard ball, the so-called long ball, is actually a better ball because, this whole short... by the way, Man City play as many long balls, if you want to call it that, as any good team. That's what football is. Not a long ball. It's a pass creating danger for the opposition. So I really agree with you that this Sundowns side is incredibly difficult to beat. And I'm actually surprised they've even dropped any points. But that's a good omen for you because they have dropped points and they have lost games. And if you're in their face, I think you can do it. I want to are you willing to give a prediction?
A scrappy 1-0 win would be suffice.
You know what? I agree with you. And I think Mangoba's just gone, that's the last thing I wanted to hear. Because no top player wants to have a scrappy game against anybody. All creative players want to be able to play. And if you, as you say, get in their face. But what we're going to do, Clinton, going to take a short break and we'll talk a little bit more about the final and a little bit about Magesi. Stay with us, guys.
Hey, Tola.
All right, here we go.
Ko Betway ba tshepela hore o tshwantse o betjhe ka tsela e nepahetseng ka nako e nngwe ho tlamehile hore o ikhule hanyane ka nako tse ding
O ska leka go busha tse di lahlegileng.
Nakusasa kuse olunye usuku.
Dlala ngokusemandleni wakho.
Ge o tlhoka thuso go gona.
hopola bet responsibly.
Welcome back to the Betway Beat, brought to you by SoccerBeat. Don't forget, guys, to like and subscribe and share and hit that bell, the notification bell. And I've got Clinton Larsen here, the coach of the moment, going into a cup final with the heavyweights. Clinton, just as a matter of interest, something we spoke about as well, and I think it's important for the viewers out there. This Sundowns team that you're playing against didn't happen overnight. The club's been a top club even before Patrice Motsepe bought them, but they've invested in their club, their facilities, the coaching staff that they've had, the players that they've bought, the youth setup, the technical director they've got in. It's a business plan, like any big club. And the reason why they're the best team in the league right now, and only Pirates really are looking at that can unsettle them, is because of this kind of investment. Looking at your club and a lot of PSL clubs, the mistakes they make is they go for short-term gain, not understanding that it's long-term pain that you need. Sorry, short-term pain that you need for the long-term gain. And I'm concerned that your club has gained too much too quickly. You're a new team, you win promotion, you're in the PSL, you're not in the relegation battle, you're in a cup final. Is there a long-term plan at Magesi? Has the chairman spoken to you, the owner spoken to you, said, listen, you're going to be our guy here for the next, I mean, obviously if you don't avoid relegation, you're our guy to build this, and this is what we're doing facility-wise. Because this is what is the fall down for a lot of these new clubs. We've seen it with Maruma, etc. What's the message from your chairman and the owners? What do you get from it?
Well, Peter, to be brutally honest with you, we've not looked past the current season. So if you're talking about medium and long-term planning, I don't think there's many chairmen that operate that way in the Premier League. So for me, it's just about having promoted the team, coming in my first season, stabilizing things, making us a competitive unit, and keeping the team up. I think that's important to know, because we can't be naive and think that we're one of the big boys now. We've beaten Pirates, we've drawn with Chiefs. Over 30 games, it's a different story altogether. We've got to be consistent. You've got to have depth in your squad. And the gulf in terms of investments between the haves and the have-nots is just astronomical. Sundowns can buy a player for 50, 60 million. I've not bought one player. I signed 5 players who are sitting at home, ex-PSL players. So that is the difference in terms of the investment the two clubs can make. And I understand that in my position at the club I'm at. And I've been prepared to work with what I've got. It has not been easy, but like I said, it's my job to try and get this team as organized as possible. But most importantly, to get a work ethic within the group that can sustain us through matches when we're lacking the talent other clubs have.
My question was more directed to, and this is all the fans out there, all the viewers out there. The difference between football clubs on the field is not necessarily what makes the difference between football clubs. Because you can get a coach in like Clinton Larsen, for example, you've done well what people can see on the field. But that is a temporary fix, because it doesn't last unless it's supported by, because if you don't have a technical support team, and the opponents have a technical support team, that's just hiring qualified people to analyze players. What is the background like? The training pitches, the facilities, because that kind of investment is not a heavy investment. You don't have to buy a player for 20 million. You can have a youth setup that guarantees your clubs the best young players coming through. You can have good youth coaches. So that's the long-term investment I'm seeing. And I see when I visit and speak to people at the various PSL clubs that are struggling, I see one of the biggest reasons why they're struggling, they get relegated, they get promoted, and relegated, is because there's no long-term plan for the club. I'm not talking about the first team. The first team can have a quick fix. Bring coach, does well. There's a little bit of luck involved in football, but a bad luck, a good coach, you get relegated and so on. But generally speaking, if you look at the Cape Town clubs in particular, Cape Town City have done well in the past, Ajax Cape Town before it got sold. The investment in the club is what brought the success, especially the young players. Is there investment in Magesi? I don't know the club well enough to know that without asking you.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's our first season, Peter. And, you've got to crawl before you walk. We only have our DDC team, which was just put together 3 months ago in the preseason. And that's basically where we are. We're at rock bottom, trying to develop the club. And it's not easy. You talk about infrastructure, you were talking about analyzing Unfortunately, I'm one of the few coaches, if not the only coach, that doesn't have that luxury of having an analyst. And you talk about facilities. We share our training field with a ladies team, with our DDC team, with the rugby team. There's moments when we don't have the ground available to us. We've got many challenges, So, and I understand this, But like you said, we've got to work harder as small to medium-sized clubs to really close the gap on the other teams in terms of that organization. In terms of at least giving us the foundation from which to work. And for some of us, it's very, very difficult, but I'm not one to make excuses. I understand where the club is at this moment in their history. I understand that there are budgetary constraints. I'm fully aware of this. I understand that in the transfer market, there are 95% of players I cannot even consider getting because we have a salary cap at the club that we cannot go over. All these things I understand. And that is why I'm not one to make mistakes. I work with what I've got and try to get the best out of what I've got.
Right. I think I hear you. I think you've been very diplomatic, but you've got the club to a cup final. You've got them promoted. I think you've done an incredible job. But there's without a doubt for a club to, you make history by what you do today. History begins today. If you've only started, you don't have a history. So you've got to start your history today. And that history gets started not really on the results on the park, because those are temporary. What's permanent is what you do behind the scenes, the building the facilities and so on and so forth. And I hope your club with this have this realization that they've got a coach here that's building something on the field, but the real building is on the field, that fans see something that, hang on, this is something we can support. Fans support a club for two reasons: that they've created something off the field as well as on the field. But that's another story, and I'm sure with the success that you guys are having, that'll motivate them even more. On that note, though, I've got to say this to you. Your chairman at the start of the season said you guys can win the league. I hope he didn't give it to you as a target.
No, he didn't. Like I said, when I was asked about mandates at the beginning of the season, I was very clear in saying that from my personal perspective, based on our recruitment, based on the quality I had at my disposal, that survival for me was the most important thing. But like in every club, Peter, you'll get different answers from different people within the same organization. You'll ask my CEO, he'll have a different top 8. Someone wants to play in Africa, someone wants a cup, someone wants a league. So these things are normal. But I don't know if he was joking when he said that he could have been. But I think it's highly unlikely for anybody to topple the mighty Sundowns. And if it is, in my opinion, there were only 2 teams at this point that were in a position to really threaten him. And that, in my humble opinion, was Orlando Pirates and Stellenbosch. So say for a newly promoted team to do a Leicester, come in and win the league, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Well, with all due respect, I don't know your chairman, and I respect him for helping take the club to the Premier League, obviously. But I can tell him right now that neither Pep Guardiola or Ancelotti or Klopp would come there now and say they can get you in the top 4, never mind win the league, even if they did it together, with no disrespect to yourself or anybody. But anyway, moving on. Tell me, you mentioned Kaizer Chiefs. What did you think of Chiefs? I mean, great result again. What do you think? Everybody's talking Nabi ball, but if you look at the actual 2 wins and so on and so forth, it's not a result. It's not a result that the previous coaches had either. But everybody's very pro Nabi. What did you think of the team?
No, listen, I've seen a huge improvement personally. Huge improvement. I think the caliber of players recruited is way better than previously done at the club. You look at Inasho, you look at Dortley, some of those players. I think that this is a team really, once it finds its feet, that can really go on to push at the top end of the table. They've got some amazing players, I think maybe some players, the pressure of the Chiefs jersey is a little too heavy for them and they might grow into it. But they've got quality in all departments now. I don't think there's an excuse at Kaizer Chiefs for them not to consistently be a top 4 team based on the recruitment they've had this window, and possibly in the next window, there's talks that they're going to further strengthen. So what I've
They should
seen
get a
from
striker.
what I've seen from playing against them is that they are a very, very good team. Even though we look back at the Sundowns game and the big loss they suffered there, but in every other game, Chiefs were good enough to win every game, bar that Sundowns game, in my opinion. So I really think they're on the right track in terms of the direction they're taking, and with the quality of players they got, I won't be surprised coming end of the season they'll be near the summit.
Yeah, I think that'll be tough. I mean, if you look at, you couldn't watch them play last season, a couple of seasons, they were boring. This season, they're exciting to watch. They go forward. Yes, there's weaknesses. Yes, they've lost games. Yes, they've made mistakes and so on and so forth. And they're not the complete, but you can see he's building, he's got a philosophy there. There's an investment in his philosophy, and he's getting the players towards his philosophy, and he's a positive person. So it's good to see, and we need that kind of thing. What did you think between Chiefs and Pirates, incidentally? What did you think the biggest difference between the two teams, having played them both? Beaten the one and drawn to the other.
Yeah, I think just coming back to Kaiser Chiefs as well, what always does help is the fact that Nabi could come with his technical team.
Yeah.
That must never be undermined. The importance of a coach of his caliber having the leeway to bring people that he knows, understands how he works, so that he can get his message across a lot quicker with the right support around him. And I think that that was very, very important, and well done to Kaiser Chiefs as a club for allowing him to do that.
Just that goes back to my point, what I said earlier, is Chiefs invested, Kaiser Jr., who's probably in charge of that department, I think, they invested in their club. They said, let's give this guy everything he needs to give us what we want. And he's delivering certainly well on the right path to do that. So clubs need to invest in their decisions that they make. And in this instance, they did it correctly with Nabi. But going to answer the question, the difference you've seen between the two, I'm talking about on the field, Chiefs and Pirates?
I think it's a simple answer, Peter. Kaiser Chiefs have a newly formed team.
Yeah.
The gelling process is not a very, very quick fix. It's going to take time, and they will get it right, in my opinion. Look at the Orlando Pirates team. They've been together for the past 3, 4, 5 seasons. Makala's been ever present in the team. Masangwani and Bata in the past 2 seasons. You look at Mabasa, you look at Evidence Mahopa. You go through that team and you start to see consistency. Maybe just Van Rooyen recently at right back, but when you look at Toki at centre back, CBC, Nda, you start to see Sipo Chain in goal. This team has been together for 2, 3 seasons, and it can be seen in terms of how connected they are as a team. It's so fluid the way they play and understand each other, and that comes from playing many, many minutes together.
And also not changing the coach, because Rivera, a few years ago, they didn't do well in Africa, haven't won the league. We're going, old Pirates may have said, well, we're not interested in the cups. You don't bring us the league or Africa, you're gone. And they're stuck with him, and you can see the difference. So again, 10 out of 10 for Pirates for investing time and patience in their man. And that's the difference. Let's take a short break, and then we're going to come back. Clinton, give us, let us pay the bills. Welcome back, everybody. It's the Betway Beat, brought to you by SoccerBeat, and it's Peter the Toit. I'm with Clinton Larsen. And guys, don't forget to follow us on the social media channels. Clinton, to kind of finalize, if you look at the Mamelodi Sundowns lineup, it's the who's who, their squad. You can go into their third team, basically. It's a squad. It's the who's who of South African football. No disrespect to your team. You're the biggest name in that club. It's a team of no-name brands. It's a team that people could say, these are guys are no hopeless. But obviously, that you work with them every day. You've got them to where they are in the league. You've got them into a final. How have you molded these guys? Who are the guys who've stepped up here?
Peter, I think what has been important for us in these past 2 to 3 months as a new club has been the experienced players that have come in. You know, they've been the glue in terms of keeping this young, inexperienced group together. And a few players really stand out. You know, we've got a goalkeeper who disappeared for 2 to 3 seasons, Elvis Chipazeze, in the NFD. He's now back at the top level and doing very, very well. We've got Limbikani Mzava, ex-Malawi captain, played for me at Celtics, played at Amazulu, was sitting at home for 6 months to a year. I gave him a call in pre-season. Would you be interested in an assessment? He jumps at the opportunity. Diolin Mekoa, I've got to mention what a great player this is. If you can remember back, I think it was under Ernst Middendorp and Fadlu Davids. He was setting the legal light at Maritzburg United. There was talks of Sundowns interested in him. He was playing for the under-23 national team. What a brilliant player. Went off the rails a bit, got married, is back to his best, Peter. I promise you, he's been our most consistent performer.
I was just going to say, he's been your best
The
player.
energy he brings to the team, the football brain he brings, you know, he's such a great person and a good teammate to have around the change room and training field. He's just been a total revelation at the club. Another one would be Edmo Chirambadare. You know, Edmo 2 seasons ago, Venda in the NFD threw him away. I gave him a call because I had seen him play at Venda. I said, Edmo, come and have a go. Last season,
Ex-Chiefs, right?
ex-Chiefs player. Yes, ex-Zim International. He came to us last season in the beginning of the season and had a stunning season with us. And he's also one of our key players at the moment, you know. Very good on dead balls, very technically, very, very good. I think we're starting to see qualities of his that were not seen 7 years ago at Kaizer Chiefs, you know. So that's another player that has come.
You brought his confidence back.
Listen, a lot of players, all they need is an arm around the shoulder. You know, you give a player love, and I know that from past experience as a player. You give a player love, you show that belief in him, and it's amazing what it can do to a player's confidence. And Chiramadare has been one of those, you know. Another player, Peter, would be Samuel Dapo. Samuel is Ghanaian, played for 4 seasons, 5 seasons at Amazulu, and was a regular at Amazulu. And he was 3 seasons ago sent packing from Amazulu. I took him to Summerfield Dynamos for 6 months. And he then signed for Venda Academy. When he got to Venda, the ex-coach of Venda, Michael Loffman, who was at Orlando Pirates, really enjoyed working with Sam. Michael was leaving. Sam became a fringe player. I brought him 2 seasons back to Magesi, and he's been ever present in my starting 11, you know. So these are some of the players down the spine of the team that have really brought their experience and helped this young group of players who sometimes are like deers in the headlight at this level of football.
What's happened to Matupa? I mean, he's an experienced player. He's at Wits, Sundown, Pirates.
Yeah, Gift Matupa came here very unfit. You know, last season he went to Baroka, never played a single game, because his fitness levels weren't up to scratch. And when he joined us, it was a case of the same. You know, we're really working hard. He's a talented, only 30 years old. He's a talented footballer. But I'm not the type of coach who's going to play a name. I need to see that the player is ready to play. So I've had this conversation with Gift. I've had this conversation with my club. A fit Gift Matupa can help Magesi, and unfit Gift Matupa will not. And at this point, the other players playing in his position are ahead of him in that department. So he's got a way to go to fight to get back into the team.
He's a typical example of a lot of South African players that I've seen who had so much potential. He could score goals as well. He could play in so many different positions. I was very disappointed as a lover of players with ability that he didn't kick in and go to where he could be. And, you know, players blame coaches, but at the end of the day, you're in control of yourself. You play, even if a coach hates you, and you're going to do the business, he'll play you. So I hope you get him right, but you can't get him right unless he gets himself right. And fitness is something you get yourself right with. Anyway, Clinton, what else? Good luck for the final. It's going to be a big battle. I can't wait to watch the game, and we'll have a chat after the game as well. But before I let you go, we always ask the coaches to come on. That it's a nice way to end. There's funny stories from your playing career. Neil told us two very funny stories in the last interview. You've been at Manning Rangers. A lot of naughty guys there. I know Gordon very well. Gordon Nixon told me stories about you as well, but I won't mention them right now.
Yeah, they can't be that bad. I was a good boy.
Oh. No, you were.
Listen, Peter, listen, I think every coach, and especially when you've been coaching as long as I have as well, you've got loads of stories. I'll never forget Gordon. He was such a great man manager. I think with him and Clive Barker, it's what's, made them a cut above the rest. They could really, really get under your skin and make you believe in yourself, even when others doubted you. He done that to me as a player, and look what he done for my career, And they just had this knack of getting to know the player, the person, And one day we were playing Sundowns, and one of my ex-teammates, Solomuzi in Demandi, this is at Manning Rangers, I would say in the mid-90s. Yeah.
Fantastic.
What a player. One of the most skillful players I've ever had the privilege of playing in. And I've been on the field with Dr. Kumalo Shoes Mashu. And Solo in Demandi was an amazing talent. But he had a problem with the bottle. He had a problem with the bottle. And one day we were playing Sundowns, and I'll never forget. So I think we knew he was a bit under the weather, and we tried to motivate him. And I think it was Gordon or Mark Davies, our captain, who gave him the armband to say, come on, Solo, man. When you on song, the team's on song. And Solo was half drunk. I promise you, before the game started, Daniel Mambush Madao says to me, Coach, I can smell the alcohol. I said, yeah, I know, but we're just hoping that he turns it on today. The game started, Solo started running with the ball in the wrong direction. It wasn't long. I think he was taken off after like 15, 20 minutes, Peter, but that was one of the funniest things. And then, as a league winner, we played in the Champions League as well, Peter. We went to places like Morocco. We played Raja Casablanca, and we had a very, very naughty group of people at the club, including Sheppy, our monsieur, Dylan Shepherd's dad. Yeah. And Sheppy was such a naughty old man. After the game, we're at the hotel, and the guys are just sitting around board. We've got a great result away from home against Raja Casablanca. And the guys decide, hey, listen, let's get some beers here by the pool, and we'll put the bill on Afzal Khan's name. I promise you, at the end of the night, there must have been 100 beer bottles around the pool. Okay, this was after the game. But did we not get in trouble for that? We were called into a DC. The players had to go in and account for this bill that came to the club, and we all had to contribute towards paying the fine. But what a great group of guys. You had Mark Davies, the captain. Yeah. You know what made that group special? On any given day, Peter, Mark Davies, Warren DuPont, Bradley Muir would go into the township. If the players were going to Shisanyama or whatever the case is, they wouldn't be afraid whether you're in Amtata and the guys want to go out after the game. These guys were always up for it. And it created such a strong camaraderie within the group. I'll also never forget, Gordon used to do it, Clive used to do it. We used to have monthly braais together, where the guys would get together. Clive would buy his beers, or he'd ask us, hey man, buy me a 6-pack of Castle, man. We'd buy him beers while the guys are brying the meat. They just had a way of making a team feel like a family. But we've got so many stories, and it's just a pleasure to have shared the field with some of these players. I mean, especially my time at Manning Rangers. What a special time it was in my life. I spent 10 years in total there, and it really molded me into the person I am in terms of football. You know, having had the privilege as a player to be coached by the likes of Gordon, Clive Barker, Augusto Palacios, the late Eddie Lewis, the late Ronald Nkwandawiri, Mark Tovey. I can go on and on. I was so blessed as a player to have had these coaches coach me. And I tried as best I can to steal a little bit from each of them, you know. And today in my coaching, I try to use what I've learned from a lot of them.
Fantastic. And maybe their spirit will live on for you in the game on the weekend and bring you a bit of luck and a bit of booty.
I hope some of them are smiling down on us, and, you know, God bless their souls. And yeah, it's just going to be an awesome day on Saturday. You know, I'm going to my second home, which is Bloemfontein. I spent 6 to 7 years there, over 2 spells at the club. And that place has got a special place in my heart. And I just hope that, you know, come 8 o'clock on Saturday night, we could be celebrating.
Well, let's see if the stars align. But, you know, good luck to Sundowns and good luck to you guys. Let's hope it's a great game. It'll be a full house, obviously. And we've got to get you back. There's some of those funny stories. We've got to get some of those players on with you as well. But we'll get you back again, Clinton. And you've done a fantastic job. You're a miracle man so far. Keep it going. And we hope to see you succeed. Speak to you again. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to follow us, like us. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Liaka!